First up is probably Jimmy's oldest collaborator and friend, someone who may have known Jimmy the best, and that is bassist Billy Cox. Billy is best known for performing with Jimi Hendrix. Cox is the only surviving musician to have regularly played with Hendrix, first with his experimental group that backed Hendrix at Woodstock, formerly referred to as the Gypsy Sun and Rainbows, followed by the trio with drummer Buddy Miles that recorded the live Bandit Gypsies album, and lastly, the Cry of Love tour trio with Mitch Mitchell back on drums. You know, Cox continues to perform dates with the Band of Gypsies Experience and the Experience Hendrix Tour, as well as sitting in with the Kiss of Sky guys several times.
Billy Cox, welcome to Deeper Digs. How you doing today?
Nothing to brag about, nothing to complain about. I'm glad to be here.
You know, one thing you can guarantee in almost every town in America is a Jimi Hendrix tribute band. You know, on November 27th, which would have been Jimi Hendrix's 78th birthday, he, you know, we're going to put on a show with Kiss the Sky, which features Jimy Bleu, and I think you know a little bit about that act, don't you?
I might add, Jimy Bleu has played with me for countless times, and what better guy to do that, man? This guy is a virtuoso on the guitar, and he puts on a dynamic show, you know? So, yeah, get on out there and check him out.
Yeah. He's worthy of the title of recreating the Jimi Hendrix experience. Although I know they take these recreations on these iconic shows, like Monterey Pop, like Woodstock, like Isle of Wight, and they get down to the detail and just perform it as is, as if you were there, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
That's pretty
spirit.
incredible.
He does. He has that spirit.
So he gets the spiritual nature of Jimi Hendrix as well as the technical prowess.
There it is. You said it all.
Well, good. Billy Cox, thanks for being with us on Deeper Digs today.
Well, thank you for having me on, and have a great day.
Next, we have another of the great collaborators for Jimmy. Juma Sultan, born in 1942, is a jazz musician, most often recording as a percussionist or bass player. He may be best known for his appearance at the Woodstock Festival of 1969 at Bethel, New York, playing with Hendrix. He currently plays in the African performance group Sankofa, the band Sons of Thunder, and with the Juma Sultan Band. Sultan was born in Monrovia, California. In 1969, he performed at the Woodstock Festival in Hendrix's band Gypsy Sun and Rainbows, and on the Dick Cavett Show, and a special show in Harlem several weeks later. He was interviewed extensively for the documentary films Jimi Hendrix and Jimi Hendrix Live at Woodstock. He appears on approximately 12 of Jimi Hendrix's posthumous releases. Juma Sultan's musical talents span jazz, rock, blues, and spirituals throughout decades of performing, producing, and recording. Welcome to Deeper Digs, Juma Sultan. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Excellent, it is. I'm up here, upstate New York, still winter's coming on.
Yeah.
So it's great to talk to you.
Well, I have to ask the first question. So much the Juma Sultan origin story, the superhero origin story. How did you get into music, and how did that come into your life?
A lot of people ask me a lot. We're doing this tribute for
Jimmy. Yeah.
For Jimmy.
Yeah.
And
November 27th, which would have been his 78th birthday.
Oh, yeah. Well, Kiss the Sky is very, very solid. I met Jimy Bleu when I was with the Gypsy Sun and Rainbows up at the Chopin House in Boyceville. And he was just a youngster. He was part of Jimmy's fan club early, way back.
Yeah.
May have even started. So there's a lot of history. There's a lot of history there. So I'm going to let you ask me the questions, and I won't go off.
Well, since you brought up Jimy Bleu and Kiss the Sky, obviously, you know, they are the headline act on the birthday celebration here coming up on November 27th at the Bearsville Theater up near you there in Woodstock. You are going to come down and sit in for a little bit, huh?
Well, occasionally I do sit in on certain segments. What I like about what they do with that is they present Jimy at different levels.
Right. Very specific shows and recreations.
It's very educational.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what they're doing. So within that fact of keeping it within a historical concept, I respect them and also very good players. And I've always participated and enjoyed and many of the things that they do.
Well, are you going to be with Kiss the Sky on the 27th?
Yes, I plan to at this point. They haven't designated the tunes, but I'm sure that if they replicate something from the one of the albums or Woodstock, I'll probably do 2 or 3 numbers with the band.
That's fantastic to hear. Well, we look forward to seeing you on the virtual stream, as our fans that we affectionately call diggers know. November 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Jimy Bleu and Kiss the Sky will be performing the music of Jimi Hendrix, and we'll get to see the great Juma Sultan sit in for a little bit. So, Juma, I just want to thank you for spending some time with us and giving your thoughts and recollections on Jimi Hendrix and his legacy and the great work that you are doing and are continuing to do today.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for having me, and perhaps when I'm on the West Coast, I'll give you a call.
Most definitely, you look us up, Juma.
All right, be well.
You too. Okay. Up next is a man who helped add a little more Latin flavor to the Hendrix sound, Gerardo Valz. Best known for performing with Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock in 1969. His first professional gig, I'll have you know, which we just played a little bit of Red House from that performance. Valz is a veteran percussionist and drummer who has performed with many artists covering a number of different genres of music. He's also a common member and one of the founders of jazz fusion band Spyro Gyra. He's played with Nile Rodgers and Chic, Paul Simon, David Bowie, Sir Elton John, Mark Anthony, Taylor Dane, a whole host of others. And he is a 7-time Grammy nominee and multi-platinum recording artist. Gerardo Valz, welcome to Deeper Digs. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and thank you for having me on your show.
Jimmy's not around, but there are still a relevancy and a huge interest in what he accomplished in a very short period of time. You know, there are tribute acts that are all over the world. A favorite of ours, I think, is Kiss the Sky, featuring Jimy Bleu in the role of Jimi Hendrix. And I think you're very aware of them. If I remember right, I think you've actually played with them, right?
First of all, they're the best in that, and I'll tell you why. Because they're not a tribute band. They're a recreation band. And Mike, who put it all together, I mean, he's really the brains behind it. God bless him. Mike, gotcha, brother. He's man, because what he's done, he said, no, we're not going to be a tribute band. We're going to recreate each major event that Jimmy did. Monterey, Woodstock. I mean, he has a guy that looks like me, a guy playing congas, and he had the congas that
the exact congas and everything.
Everything, the amp, the shirt. He had a shirt made like this. I mean, attention to detail. And then you got Jimy Bleu.
Yeah.
This guy not only looks like Jimmy, first of all, he's a slinky little sexy dude like Jimmy was, and he's a left-handed, upside-down guitar player. Yeah. How could it be more
authentic? Yeah.
Good? If you didn't actually meet Jimmy, I would say, you are Jimmy reincarnated, because when he gets up on that stage, from all the other acts that I've seen, I look at Jimmy and I go, you go, brother. Because like I said, there's a lot of guys that can play the parts, but when you actually look at them, that's not Jimmy. It's guys doing a tribute to Jimmy. They do a recreation. You feel like you're at that concert. You're living and breathing the light show. He even has the light show from back then. He licensed the light show. I mean, the attention to detail is beautiful. So any of your listeners that are listening out there, these guys are fantastic. If it wasn't for COVID, I'd be up there jamming with them whenever I can, because it's always a pleasure to play with them, hang out with the guys, and also they're keeping the spirit of Jimmy alive more than any of the other bands I work with. Last year, I have a band, Hendrix by Hendrix.
Hendrix by Hendrix.
With Jimmy's second cousin, Reggie Hendrix. We toured last year. We did several events, in the spirit of Jimi Hendrix, celebrating the 50th anniversary of Woodstock.
Right.
But Jimy Bleu and Kiss the Sky are continuing that tradition every day. So I applaud them, and I'm there to support them. So where does it go from here? What happens to it after I go and all the other guys are gone, man? You're getting our interviews now, but it's those guys that are carrying the tradition. Yeah. And when you do a recreation style, that's like saying that's the way it was.
Yeah.
The temple that guy just built, that was the temple that we worked on. You know what I mean? That's recreation. I was working with them before because I believe in what they're doing, and I believe that they're the future of the tradition.
Well, Gerardo Valz, thanks so much for being with us on Deeper Digs today.
Well, thank you so much. Deeper Digs, best. We need you out there, Christian. We need you to document all this and to share this with your listeners. So thanks a lot.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Welcome to Muses, the podcast that explores the often overlooked stories and contributions of women in music history. I'm Shanti.
And I'm Lynx. Today, we've come together for a very special occasion, and that's to mark what would have been Jimi Hendrix's 78th birthday on November 27th.
We had a conversation with Rosalie Brooks and Greg Wright.
Rosalie Brooks locked eyes with Jimi Hendrix on New Year's in 1963, and it was love at first sight. Cosmically connected, the two went on to write and record My Diary and UT together, forming both a romantic and musical partnership. Rosa began singing at the age of 2, and thankfully she hasn't stopped. Mentored by Etta James, she brought everything full circle later on when she'd invite musicians into her home and inspire them.
I heard that she even had Jimy Bleu and Kiss the Sky over to her house. She cooked them an amazing meal while they rehearsed at her place and jammed with her band.
I love him so much. That is my guy. I had a chance to see his show. He came here in 2016, and they did a thing at the Whiskey.
Yes.
And that's the one you missed, Greg. I was trying to get Greg to come be with us, but he couldn't make it on that time. But that show was something out of, oh my God, like phenomenal. It was a great show. What he does with two different, he plays, half of it is with the Experience and half of it is with the Band of Gypsies. And each one of them take you there. Each performance with both elements were on point. And every tune he played, every move he made in the band, they looked the part. Those guys, they look great up there. I mean, and I'm so proud of him because he's got a hell of a show. And I hope that he continues as long as he can to do it, because he's got a really wonderful, unlike some of, I've over time, I've met a lot of cats that do Hendrix tributes and stuff, but he's got an A1 show.
I saw a photo of you. I believe it was at that show, front of the stage, just smiling ear to ear.
Well, let me tell you about that picture that's standing in front of the stage like that, looking up at Jimy Bleu. That is deja vu for me, because that's the way, the same corner and the same look, looking up at the stage at Jimi Hendrix himself performing. That's what that took me to, because it was like I said, deja vu.
And thank you.
Thank you for.
I appreciate it. All you guys, thank y'all so much. This has been a pleasure to share this time with you and be able to talk about a subject that I love talking about.
As I keep saying, the man of the hour, the Jimi Hendrix tribute of our age. And really, it's not me who says that, but most of the folks we've spoken to over the last few weeks. Returning to our show is none other than Jimy Bleu. Kiss the Sky, who you will see performing at the historic Bearsville Theater in Woodstock, New York, is fronted by virtuoso guitarist and former Columbia recording artist Jimy Bleu and backed by a cast of world-class touring musicians from the New York City metro area. Kiss the Sky musicians are so experienced that all three of Jimy's remaining former bandmates and living legends, as we've said, Billy Cox, Juma Sultan, and Gerardo Valz, have each played on stage alongside Kiss the Sky performers.
Jimy Bleu, welcome to Deeper Digs. How are you doing today?
Christian, so good to see you again, my man.
Are you going to do one of the special shows that you guys do for this, or is this a new, unique thing for specifically for this event?
You know, we're still working that out. The producer, Mike Gotch, is still really working that out. Mm-hmm. And we're still finalizing some things. So I can't really say for sure now.
All right. So it's up in the air because you guys are famous for doing these very particular recreations like the Woodstock concert, or I believe Monterey Pop, Isle of Wight, I think also. Are there others that you do?
Yeah, people have often asked me throughout the decades, hey, man, why don't you write a book? You know, you were there. And I'm like, I am the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the past 4 years, I've been blessed to have as a partner, Mike Gotch, mm-hmm. who has the same vision I have of presenting Jimmy just like a Broadway play. It's very important. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because this guy, what he accomplished in the industry and his potential before he died was just amazing, and it's missed by most people. So it's important for us to come on stage and show what he was like when he first, got discovered in 1966, and so until his death in 1970, and the various stages that he went through.
Yeah, it was just a few short years that we had him, on the pinnacle of rock and roll. Of course, he'd been, woodshedding and working it for at least almost a decade before, and had played with everybody, including Little Richard, as most people know. But he was always destined to be his own guy, wasn't he?
Most definitely, and he started to come really into that destiny, as you say. Maybe about a year and a half before he died. He started to put everything together and realized that where he was and his potential to do even go more higher.
And thank you very much. We've had a chance to talk to several people that have both played with you and with Jimmy, most notably Billy Cox and Gerardo Valz have both played with both you, with Jimmy and you. And I asked Gerardo about that. He was a force of nature. Why do you think Hendrix still resonates? Here's now 50 years beyond his passing.
I think more of what he stood for, of course his talent, but more of what he stood for, the freedom, the individual freedom that he stood for, still resonates with a lot of people today.